So here's the thing. Last June, July, Pastor Matt, intern Nick, our good helper Amber, we sat down, we spent probably 3 or 4 weeks, 2 or 3 days a week, planning and scheduling and getting everything in position so we could just roll through the year of what we had planned. And to be fair and so on, we prayed a lot. We prayed about what big rock we'd be looking at, and our theme, show and tell, and all that stuff. And we looked and we said, now, Rock the Capital is our first big event of the year, so we need to make sure that we're rolling and getting people ready for that. And we were quite confident, especially with you high school students, that you'd be like, I am in, I get it, I understand it. I understand it's about bringing my friends out. I understand that it's about the lost. I understand that it doesn't matter if I like the bands or not. It's really about getting people to hear about Jesus and all of that. And quite honestly, last Tuesday night, I felt like we had one of the best, God is preparing us for something, nights that we've had, period, for any kind of rock or whatever. And so when we found out later in the week that this thing had been canceled, and a lot of you know that I'm involved in the planning and all that, so involved in the canceling of it as well, we're just like, what? Now, I shouldn't say this out loud because you might repeat it, but we were like, what the heck? We sometimes say what the heck around the house, and now my 3-year-old's saying it, And so we have to stop saying it because it doesn't sound good coming out of a 3-year-old. Probably doesn't sound good coming out of us either, but anyway. And we're just like, what? God, what's going on? And I trust that you're not like, what? It's canceled? You do live and breathe in the city, right? You understood that was canceled. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were good with, why it was canceled and all that. I'll give you a brief explanation, and then I'll open up for some questions and so on if you have any, because I want to make sure you're good with that. Unless Pastor Matt already did that. Did he do that? No? Did he explain it all? More or less, we run a budget that depends on $80,000 coming in. A third of that is through ticket sales. A third of that is through private donors who have, like rich people that are willing to give. And a third of that is through churches getting on board and donating that way. And I can tell you that our ticket sales just weren't anywhere close to where they needed to be. And I can tell you that churches support, and I'm not talking about the Met, I'm talking about churches outside of the Met, just wasn't where it needed to be. The private donations were actually not too bad, but we were in a position where if we had gone ahead, we were projecting about a $30,000 to $35,000 loss, and that just wasn't going to happen. So we had to pull the plug. So then we met with our student leaders on Sunday and asked them to pray about it. What do you think we should do? And so they did. And then they started dumping a whole bunch of ideas on our student leader Facebook page, which kind of scared me. Because Pastor Matt said to me, he said, if you're going to ask them their opinion on what they should do after they've prayed, you kind of have to do what God directs them to do. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. He's like, yeah, that's how it works. I'm like, oh, okay. So they came up with all kinds of crazy ideas, some of them outstanding, some of them were like, hey, thanks for coming out, Thanks for coming out. I wasn't going to single you out, Jordan, but, anyway, no. So they did, and then Monday morning we met and we kind of went, this is what we've got, and it's Saturday night, is like in 4 or 5 days, and we just wanted to put out to you guys, junior high guys that met young adults as well. I really believe that there's enough movement in this group that we want to see people come to Jesus Saturday night. And we don't really care if we're outside at Bethel or whether we're sitting in our basement. We just want to see people come to Jesus. And so we've come up with this concept that Pastor Matt talked you through, and he did talk you through it, right? Bobblehead me if you're like, I know exactly what's going on, and I'm so excited. Did he talk you through the strategy move? Strategy. If you have a talent, like say your name is Anthony and Owen, for example, and you play the cello, just as an example, like hypothetical almost. The strategy move would be to find some other cello and string and players, and you'd have to pray that you go to school where there's people like that you would know that need Jesus. And then you'd say, hey, there's a coffee house, let's get a little, song, a little number together, and we'll play. And they'll be like, cool, we love to play. And then they'll come and play together, and then they'll stick around and hear about Jesus. You see how that works? Okay? So this isn't about you grabbing all your Christian friends and entertaining each other and us clapping and, kind of pretending it was okay. It's about strategically going after your friends and saying, join me in the talent and come with me. Or just join me and come and let's watch a whole bunch of people do a whole bunch of things, and so on. Okay? So that's the strategy. If you're like young at heart, or you just are young and you want to spend the night shooting Nerf guns around the gym, bring your friends out to do that. The junior high boys are right fired up, I'll tell you that much. But if you want to get in on that, bring some friends out who love doing that and go do that. The Red Blacks game will be on in the lounge, and some of our young adults will be here, and it's going to be a good time. But it's going to be about bringing our friends to find Jesus. Okay, so in the middle of the night, we're going to stop, we're going to show a My Hope video, and we're going to give an opportunity to come and find Jesus. That's what it's about. So I hope you're excited about that. I want to talk to you from over here though tonight, okay, in the time we have left. Turn to Judges chapter 7. In Judges chapter 7, this is a lesson I've been learning, okay? Hi. Okay. So in Judges chapter 6, 7, and 8, there's this really interesting story. And it's kind of a story that repeats throughout the book of Judges, where God loves Israel, Israel disappoints God, Israel crashes and burns, and then somebody comes and is obedient to God, and then God kind of resurrects Israel a little bit, and they kind of move on in this cycle. Okay? And in Judges 6, 7, and 8, there's this really interesting story involving a guy named Gideon. Okay? Here's the lesson I've been learning this last few months. Always listen to your wife. Right? The last 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks, I'll tell him he said that. For the last 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, anytime I come home from stressed out Rock the Capitol meetings, my wife's like, hey, I've been reading Judges 6, 7, and 8, and I just think God's got something really cool for the youth of this city. But he's going to want to make sure that nobody robs him of his glory. Okay? And I'm like, okay, thanks. Gotta go have a nap, and then do work. And then, okay, good, thanks, honey. And then I kind of remember the story in my brain and dismiss it a little bit because I'm busy doing something, right? And so this kind of repeated itself over the last 4 or 5 or 6 weeks. Now, I'm not saying blame my wife because the event was canceled. And I'm not even saying she was praying for that to happen. She was probably more devastated than anyone that it did. But I am saying that I believe God speaks to people, and we should pay attention. And I know for sure he speaks to my wife, and I should probably pay more attention. So I want to just go through this story with you. And this is not what I had planned. This isn't part of the Are You Ready to Rock series. This is just me as I was mourning the loss of something I really love. Thinking about how do I talk to my flock about this? How do I tell my sheep it's going to be okay? And so I started reading this passage that my wife kept talking to us about. And I just want to walk through it with you, if that's okay. So hopefully you have your Bibles open, because I don't have any fancy slides for you. I just have the Word of God tonight. All right? So in Judges chapter 6, just to give you a little bit of context, again, the people of Israel have been disobedient. And it says in verse 1, the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them into the hand of Midian 7 years. Okay? Think about 7 years. 4 years high school, grade 7 and 8. We all know grade 6 doesn't count as junior high anyway, so basically just a warm-up year. So grade 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is how many years? 6. So we have, is it 6? I thought it was 6, right? So we got high school, we got grade 7 and 8, throw in grade 6 if we really have to, there's your 7 years, right? Basically your whole existence at Met Youth. All right? Some of you have been coming, you're in grade 11, 12, and the last 4 years, all you've known is Rock the Capitol or Rock the River. And you're like, this is something I'm really getting hyped about. Okay? And it's not happening. You're like, what? you know? But think 7 years. The Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them over to Midian. Midian's the bad guy in this story, for 7 years. Okay, so think, 7 years has come and gone, and what was happening was they would come and basically pick on them and bully them. Look at verse 4. They would encamp against them and devour the produce of the land as far as Gaza, and leave no sustenance in Israel, and no sheep or ox or donkey. Okay, verse 6. And Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the people of Israel cried out for help to the Lord. So Israel would plant their crops, and the harvest would come in, and they would just walk in and take their stuff. It's like the classic bullying. You know, hey, what'd your mom make you for lunch today? Oh, I got this nice, good, give it to me. You know, that's what's going on. And so Israel's going through this. And so in verse 10 we see, and I said, let me back up to verse 9. And I delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians, from the hand of all who oppressed you, and drove them out before you, and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am the Lord your God. You shall not fear the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell. But you have not obeyed my voice. Great line in that last song we sang. There is no one, right, like you, God. And so they're crying and complaining because the gods of that world at that time were basically picking on them, and they're like, what are we going to do? And he says, I've told you. Don't you remember when I brought you out of Egypt? I am God. There is no one like me. I am God. Okay? Now let's keep going. And then we get down, I'm going to skip down a little bit to verse 22. God picks Gideon, and he gives Gideon these signs that he is the man. Then Gideon perceived that he was the angel of the Lord. So he has this exchange with the Lord, and Gideon goes, okay, I think that was God. Peace be to you. Do not fear. You shall not die, God says to him. Then Gideon built an altar there to the Lord, and called it, The Lord is Peace. To this day it still stands at Ophrah, which belongs to the Abiezrites. Okay? Now, so God gives him this job. He wants you to build this altar, and when the altar is built, it's going to overtake the altars of Baal and so on. And I'm going to flex my holy muscle here. And Gideon says, okay, here's the sign. I've got it. God is God. It's all good. But look at this. But because he was too afraid, verse 27, of his family and the men of the town to do it by day, he did it by night. So it's kind of like, if you're like, I am convinced God wants to save my friends, so I am going to go and I'm going to invite them out. I believe it, I'm going to do it. And you go, but you're a little scared. So instead of inviting them out, you call when you know they're not going to be home, so you get the voice message, right? Or you send them a Facebook and then immediately click offline so they don't see the green dot and know that you're there watching all this, right? Or if you go to their house to invite, you know, knock really lightly and hope they don't come to the door. It's like, I believe it, but I'm kind of scared. You know, one thing we learn about Gideon is pride is a killer. And in verse 27 we see that pride sometimes shows itself as fear. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get afraid to speak up for God. That's pride. Because what that's saying is that I might fail. I might get made fun of. I might not have my friends come. They might reject my message. And we forget that this is actually a spiritual battle that they're having with God. This isn't about us. So pride sometimes rears its ugly head in the form of fear. Okay, let's keep moving. At the end of chapter 6, verse 36, then Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand, as you have said, I'm going to, and he puts out a fleece. You ever heard of a fleece prayer? This little passage in here tells you where that comes from. Okay? And Gideon puts up the sign, and God answers it not once but twice to confirm again to Gideon that he is good to go. Okay? Then we move into chapter 7, and this is a story that you might find familiar from Sunday school days, maybe not, where Gideon now has to build this army to go against these people that are furious with him and want to kill him because the altar that he built destroyed the altar of Baal and so on. So they're mad. They want to fight him. He's got to get an army together. Okay? And so in chapter 7, we see this army being developed. All right? So, verse 1, then Gideon and all the people who were with him rose early and encamped beside the spring of Harad. Verse 2, the Lord said to Gideon, and catch this, the people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hand, lest Israel boast over me, saying, my own hand has saved me. Okay? So Gideon's like, okay, we're going to do it. And he's like, let's see, how many people do we have in our army? You know? And I only want people who love Jesus. So we got 32,000. If you follow the story, you know what I'm talking about. And we're going to call them congregation students. These are 32,000 people. Okay? Pastor Matt told you you're going to get to put your magnets on the board tonight, right? 32,000 people would say, yeah, I love Jesus. I'm an Israelite. I'm good. I'm good to go. Of course, they would say, I believe a Messiah is coming, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So yeah, I'm in. You know, I'm part of the people. And Gideon's like, I'm going to get all the people together and we're going to go out and in our power, we are going to conquer. Right? And God says, let Israel, I don't want Israel boasting over me saying, my own hand has saved me. You know? God forbid we ever put an event on, whether it's a rock festival, whether it's a coffee house, or whether it's inviting a few friends over to hear about Jesus in our basement. God forbid we ever do it in our own power. Because when we do it in our own power, it's as good as a human can do, which is pretty pathetic. Sorry, but I know that to be true, because I've tried. So, say to the people, verse 3, whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home and hurry away from Mount Gilead. Then 22,000 of the people returned and 10,000 remained. Okay? So, Gideon turns and goes, okay, if I'll do what you say, Lord. If you're scared, you can go. Okay? I was toying with the idea of doing this. I'm not doing this, but imagine in your hearts, if I were to say to you, you know what, Saturday night, we're bringing our friends to Jesus. If you're too scared, you can go. Right? Now you answer that question in your heart. Because this year we're learning all about effective outreach. And effective outreach starts in the heart. And so if you're too scared, that's fine. You know? But you have to acknowledge where you're at, and that's what this is about. So he says, if you're too scared, go. And how many left again? That was my math. 22,000 left. And it left 10,000 right about there in the committed circle. Okay? 22,000 leave, 10,000 remain, and the 10,000 are kind of going, oh boy. You know, this got a lot harder all of a sudden, because that's less than half. Right? I know, I struggle with pride in my math, but okay? So verse 4, and the Lord said to Gideon, now he's staring at the 10,000, he says, there are still too many people. Why did God say there's too many people? Because God does not want his glory stolen by mankind. He doesn't want that. He wants his glory because he is God and he's the only one that deserves it, and he stands alone and nobody stands with him. Right? He's saying, nobody's going to steal my glory. Something crazy is going to happen here, and it's not going to be because Gideon had a good strategy as to how to win the battle. Does that make sense? Good. So the Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many, and he takes them down to the water. And I read this over like about 8 times yesterday and today, trying to figure out, is there more to it than just a simple arbitrary choosing of 300 people? But it seems like that's about it, because the 300 that they pick are the ones that just sort of walked up to the river and threw themselves in and started drinking like with no shame. Kind of like the most simple mind. If you're thinking, I want somebody who's ready for battle, I kind of want someone who's taking a little sip and looking around and taking a little sip. I don't want the fool that just runs in and starts going crazy, but somehow God wanted that. Okay? And verse 6 says that the number of those who lapped, putting their hands to their mouth, was 300. Can you imagine? 32,000 say, yeah, I'm good to go. 10,000 were brave enough to at least stick around. I give them a lot of credit. But only 300, we'll put them right there in the corner. Only 300 is what God was going to use. Okay? Check out verse 9. Well, verse 7 is pretty cool. And the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men who lacked, I will save you and give the Midianites into your hand, and let all the others go, every man to his home. Okay? So the 300 came. Verse 9, look what it says. That same night. Okay? Picture yourself on a retreat. We're talking about the circles. You surrender all to Jesus. You're all in. You write your name right in the core. And God says, good. You're not going home. We're going to war right now. Right now we're going to invite. Not tomorrow, not next week, not 6 weeks to get your act together. Right now we're going. You're in. Let's go. I would think they'd be a little bit nervous. Keep in mind, 7 years they were in captivity to these people. 7 years they were bullied and picked on. And finally they go, yeah, let's do it. 32,000, let's go. We can do this. If we really try hard together, we can make something happen. And God says, you're not going to steal my glory. Okay, but we're 10,000 and we're willing to go for it. We're willing to try. And God says, no, it's my glory. I'm going to take 300. And that's it. And then the story goes on, and you'll read it in your small group time a little bit, and read it on your own as you prepare to actually decide what group you fall into. You see, God makes a simple promise to simple people. And that's what I love about God. Because you guys who know me, you know I'm a pretty simple guy. I can't do a lot on my own. Right? We're getting our coffee house idea together. We're going over who's got what talent and what are we going to do to set a good example. And I'm sitting there going, I really have no talent. I'm really not good at anything. And Matt, who was around back in the day, said, hey, why don't you bring Garth Brooks back? And I kind of went, oh boy, I really have no talent other than standing there and having people laugh at me. Not with me. And I'm a pretty simple guy with a pretty simple message. And God takes that and uses it. And that's what he wants to do. Okay? Okay. Story goes on. Of course, they win. All right? They do their job, and then there's this really nice little afterthought in chapter 8. Verse 3, it says, God has given into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb, Zeb. And then he says, what have I been able to do in comparison with you? And basically what happened was some other countries were coming along and they were saying, hey, why didn't you tell us we were going to war? We would have liked to have been a part of this. Because basically what happened is 300 people screamed as loud as they could, broke a few things open, and the people that they were battling turned on themselves and killed themselves. That's the essence of the story. And then, of course, everybody comes along and goes, hey, why didn't you tell us you were doing that? We would have liked to have been a part of that. And he goes, a part of what? We just watched God do something. We didn't really even do anything other than we couldn't get away fast enough when we realized there was only 300 of us. If he didn't take us and do it that night, we probably wouldn't have even been there. This is God's glory. We couldn't have done anything better than this, not even close. So, we get nice fresh magnets tonight. Everyone gets their magnets. New year, new fresh start. You take your magnet, put your little name on it, put a little symbol so you know it's yours. And this board is all about honesty. Okay? We don't come up here on Wednesday morning and look at it and take notes and then, judge you accordingly. This is between you and God. I'm talking to sponsors as much as I am students. This is between us and God. Where are we at? And where are we going to get? And as we think about Saturday night, and some of you quite honestly are in the community crowd circles where you're like, I don't even love Jesus and I don't even have a relationship with him. So I'm still thinking about it. And that's great. Keep thinking, keep praying. If you need any help with that, your sponsors will help you. I'll be happy to help you. That's great. But I'm really talking to people who say, I love Jesus, he's my Lord, he's my Savior. And a lot of us sit in this congregation place and we're just too scared to really try anything for God. This year I want to challenge you to really try something for God. A lot of us says, I'm not too scared, so I'll go committed, But But then God comes along and he says, I just want 300. I just want 300. And so on a human level, we all aspire to be at the center because we understand target practice and we get that the center is the place you want to be. I guess, unless you're playing darts, in which case you want to cripple playing. Right? So we get the center of the target is where we want to be, and we all aspire to that. And I've seen students year after year after year say, I'm a poor student. Because that's what you want to be. This board is about who are you really right now, and what are you growing towards. I believe there's a bunch of you sitting here tonight that are like, I am going for it. I'm not waiting till tomorrow morning. I am calling my friends right now. I'm getting an act together. This isn't Rock the Capitol. This isn't going to be crazy, 1,500, 2,000 students from all over the city lifting up the name of Jesus and seeing something powerful happen. This is going to be just us in this theater. But I'm going for it. Because I want God to be glorified. I want to do something that Pastor Joey and Pastor Matt didn't even plan until 2 days ago. I don't want something that man has done. I want something that God is going to do. And so my challenge is to you is, first of all, be honest. When you get your chance to put your life in stuff, be honest. Okay? But then ask yourself, do I really want to be where the action is? Right? And I can only imagine when these 300 people pull their children and their grandchildren out. But that's my hope for you guys. I hope that this year, I hope Saturday night, but I hope this year is a year that you look back on and you tell your kids and your grandkids about it. The time that I really captured the heart of God. That I really understood the heart of God is about reaching out to the lost. That I really got that it's not about selfish church learning behavior, but it's about passionately pursuing the lost in Jesus' name and not stealing God's glory from it. That's my prayer for you. Last week we talked about, God, break my heart for what breaks yours. And then God threw a curveball at us. And he's like, just to make sure, it's my glory, not yours. And now we have this awesome opportunity. So why don't we pray? God, thank you for how you just use people to bring glory to yourself. I thank you how you used Gideon and how you instilled in him a confidence that he was going to be a part of something historic, but not because of his abilities, but because of your desire to display your power and glory. God, I ask that you would do that amongst these students. And in my life, this year. God, I ask that you would do that this weekend. I pray, God, that you would give us the courage to go out in Jesus' name, not on our own strength. I pray that people will come, not because we are really great at inviting people, but because we have prayed and you have displayed your power through us. I pray that we'll be sitting here Saturday night going, whoa. But most of all, God, I pray we'd be honest in this moment, in this time, as we get our chance to put our minutes out, and God, help us to be honest, to know where we're at so that we know where we're going. In Jesus' name. Okay. How many's necks are a little bit sore from turning one way? I kind of thought about the idea of picking up that sign and moving it over to the other side halfway through just so you could stretch it the other way, but yeah. Anyway. Okay, well, time for small groups. If you're brand new, let me put it this way. Hold on. Last week we got into our groups the best we can. Hopefully you know where you're going. If you weren't here last week, not if you're new, not if it's your first time ever. You might have been here every week last year, but you just weren't here last week. If you weren't here last week, then I want you to just come and sit in the front row or two, and our Cracker Jack staff here will get you into your small groups, okay? Other than that, sponsors, hopefully you know what you're doing. Wonderful. Farewell.